is the very concept of that idea. It's that which is made up and not true. The words they use are deceptive, as Peter says in verse 18. When they speak great swelling words of vanity, they allure through the lust of flesh, through much wantonness. Those who were clean escape from them who live in error. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 18. But remember, Peter says they will bring themselves damnation. Not only will they destroy the others with a false doctrine, they'll also bring upon their own destruction. When the time is right and judgment day comes, God will deal with those. But unfortunately, they'll protect many, many people with it. That's the real problem, isn't it? That's what is so sad. You know, years ago, I had to go and my brother was in the congregation, my oldest brother, and I had to go there and help him find his way out of crossroads. And that movement took hundreds of thousands of people way after them. And it's caused many people to lose their very souls. And many people get so confused, they don't know where they're heading today. So we need to be careful now. Well, secondly, the doom of the false teacher. In 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4 through 9. It says, For God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them the chains of darkness to preserve them judgment, and spared not that old world, but saved Noah and the 8 persons, preacher of righteousness, bringing the flood upon the world of the ungodly, and turned the sin of the Sodom world into ashes, condemned them with overthrow, making them an example unto those that actually live ungodly, and delivered just Lot, Vic, with the filthy conversation of the wicked. For that righteous man dwelleth among them, and seeing and hearing, Vic to his righteous soul, from day to day, with their unlawful deeds. The Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptation, and to reserve the unjust to the day of punishment, to the day of judgment to be punished. Peter turns his attention back to 3 Old Testament examples in which God's judgment came upon the false teacher in the olden time. Number 1, the angels who sinned against God, verse 4. Number 2, the world during the days of Noah, verse 5. And number 3, the time of Lot and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, verse 6. The angels who sinned against God refer to Satan and his fallen angels. Those who rebelled against God in heaven were put forth in heaven in order to keep heaven pure. A lot of information is not really there about this concept here. But one thing we can be certain about is, though we cannot know a lot about what took place, it's clearly taught about some angels in them who were cast down to hell and delivered in chains of darkness and reserved in judgment, according to verse 4. And Jude 6 makes mention about this very idea. In verse 5, Peter describes the ancient world of Noah's day. The ancient world is at the antediluvial world, which is described in Genesis chapter 6, verse 5 through 7. And during this age, the Bible says that the wickedness of man was so great in the earth, the Bible goes on to describe it as this, that every intent or every imagination of the thoughts of our heart were evil continually. Can you imagine that? Well, it really doesn't take much imagination, does it? Because as you look around our world today, that's what's going on today, isn't it? In our world today, it seems like the world at large, just every imagination of their mind, everything they think about is just constantly evil. They're dreaming up ways to be evil, aren't they? I mean, evil people are dreaming up ways to be more evil if that's possible. And unfortunately, there are those in the church who do the very same thing. They're trying to be slick about what they're doing, trying to be a Christian at the same time be a part of the world. And trying to think of evil ways to do things, and it simply won't work. God knows, doesn't he? And God sees all things. One thing you and I need to be clear about is that you cannot fool God. You may fool others. We may pull the wool over others' eyes, but we won't pull the wool over God's eyes. In the day of Noah, Noah and his family, that is 8 souls, were saved because of his righteousness, because of their righteousness. But all around the world, I'm quite certain that those that are round about them, they never dreamed that God would destroy them. Even though Noah had preached to them about this destruction coming, he told them there's a flood coming. They saw him build this ark, this great ship, and yet it never dawned on them to turn to God, did it? They didn't think they were going to deal with God. But they dealt with God, didn't they? That is, God dealt with them. And because of that, they lost their lives, and furthermore, they lost their souls. Can you imagine only 8 people of all the world at that time were saved? The rest of them lost eternal soul. Note this well. One can live above the world even in the most wicked of cases. Notice never did, didn't they? You do not have to give in to the world. And we need to realize that we can live above the world, and to realize this, that God will deliver the righteous out of the unrighteous. God will deliver us if we stay with Him and always be firm. In verse 6 through 9, Peter turns his attention to the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And God's judgment is upon those two cities described in Genesis 19, 24 through 28. Jude talks about those who suffer the vengeance of eternal fire. Jude 7. But once again, in the midst of all this wickedness, look here. Lot, a righteous man, as described by Peter, was saved. Peter says he was righteous, and uses it 3 times. But Peter, a righteous Lot, a righteous man, his righteous soul. Like Noah, God said that Lot had been righteous before me in this generation. Genesis chapter 7, verse 1. So once again, the idea is there that even in this ungodly world, Lot could be saved, couldn't he? In verse 9, this very idea, Peter brings this section to conclusion by comparing the judgments toward the godly and the judgments toward the ungodly. And God knows how to deliver the godly out of temptations. This is seen, of course, by the example of Noah and Lot. God today knows how to deliver us out of temptations. God knows how to bring us where we need to be. But we need to put our trust in God, don't we? We need to trust God. And I'm wondering today just how much we truly trust God. You know, I wish the building was full, don't you? I was talking to Ryan about the attendance. He said attendance is down. It's down everywhere. But you know why attendance is down? And have you ever thought about it? The reason why attendance is down, not only for this, not only for gospel meetings and regular attendance, is because of the very idea people have not put their trust in God. That's it. When you boil it all right down to it, you come up with all the excuses in the world, but the fact of the matter is people have not put their trust in God. God is not first in their life. If God were first in people's lives, this building, you'll know. Matter of fact, you'd have to get seats here to put people in if people put their trust in God first. But unfortunately, the world is caught up in this. And worldly ways and worldly things and all the attention the world has gotten our people, and they're going after the world. And God comes somewhere third and fourth, somewhere in the line, God comes in there. But He's not first. God needs to be first in life. And if God is first in life, in all this world, God will deliver us from all the worlds. Put our trust in God. This should help us to be able to see that we need to remain faithful in all things. Thirdly, we need to pride against false teachers. Look at verses 10 through 16. But chiefly them that walk at the flesh, in the lust of uncleanness, despise governments. Presumptuous are they, self-willed, they are afraid to speak evil of dignities. Whereas angels, which are greater in power and might, may not rebel in accusation against them before the Lord. But these are natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of things that they understand not, and shall perish utterly in their own corruption, and shall receive the reward of the unrighteousness, as they that count it pleasure to write in the daytime. Spots they are, blemishes, sport themselves with their own deceivedness, while they feast with you, having eyes full of adultery, and they cannot cease from sin, beguiled and unstable souls, and heart they have exercised with covetous practices, cursed children, which have forsaken the right way and have gone astray, follow the way of Balaam, son of Bozar, who loved the ways of righteousness, but was rebuked for his iniquity. The dumb man, speaking with a man's voice, forbid the madness of the prophet. In this discourse against false teachers, Peter has written strong and harsh against those individuals, hasn't he? He says that they will bring damnable heresies and bring upon themselves them who follow destruction. He says their doom is certain. For God knows, he says, to reserve the unjust and punishment for the day of judgment, as illustrated for us in the examples of 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4 through 9. With what strong words? And why is this strong words? Is Peter justified in writing so harshly against these false teachers? For by inspiration, Peter knows the true extent of those who are deprived individuals have fallen. That is, he knows how far down they've gone. And he knows where they're going. Peter describes these false teachers as those who rebel against those